Okay, we will call this Planning, Zoning, and Agriculture Committee meeting to order, November 16th, 2022. We will start with a roll call.
Mr. Featherling, Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Tholen, Ms. Peters, Mr. Fairfield, here. Mr. Snipes, here. Mr. Swanson, Mr. Dunnell, Mr. Eckhoff, present. Mr. Kirkstra, present. Ms. Hudson, present. Mr. Alexander Hildebrand, present. Mr. Gowler, Ms. Foster, present. Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Searoy. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Second item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment? There being none, I'm not aware of any public comment. We'll move to item 3, approval of the October 19th, 2022 meeting minutes. Mr. Kirkstra and Mr. Eckhoff. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Okay, great. The minutes are approved. Item number 4, building report for October 2022. Dell?
Okay, you should have a, turn on number 3 there. You should have a copy of the October building report in your packet. In October, we had permit for 1 new home, issued 101 total permits, and brought in revenue of $34,700. Any questions on that?
All right, if not, thank you, Dell.
Yeah.
Item number 5. Do we need to approve that? Okay, we got to approve the building report. All those, okay, Mr. Hildebrand, Alexander, Mr. Fairfield. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Great, thank you. Thanks, Dell. We'll move on to item number 5 on the agenda, zoning, ZBA case number 22-17.
Yes. This is a request for a variance to section 121-281.c of the county code in regards to setbacks for ponds. Property is owned by Mr. James Girth. He came in about 2 years ago now, get a permit to build a pond on the north end of the property outlined in red. Turned in all of his plans. We approved them. They were engineering plans by Piggish Engineering. We approved them, went out for our inspection near the end and found out that he had moved the pond about 40 feet closer to the road than what you actually see on that aerial photo there. The ordinance says that man-made ponds need to be 200 feet from the right-of-way. This one's about 160. His reasoning behind it was that when they started digging it out towards the west end, they found buried concrete and building materials and couldn't go any further. So they moved it east without knowing that they were not following the plans and that would be a problem. This went before the zoning board last Monday, and they voted 5-0 to recommend approval. It was verified that at that part of the property there were grain silos, concrete grain silos that were torn down and buried on the property, so that part was legitimate. Both myself and Chairman Wheeler visited the site a few months ago. The main reason for the setbacks, there's 2 of them. One is so that cars leaving the roadway don't end up underwater. And based on the trajectory of the road and the geometry there, and the fact there's a berm, there's trees, the likelihood of that happening was slim to none. And the other part of it, of course, is the wetland issue, that private ponds have a nasty tendency of eventually becoming an actual wetland. And once that happens, it does change how road improvements may be done on a road. That's why we have another one of the reasons we have a larger setback, so that we don't have to go through all of those environmental issues when we improve a road. Anyway, the zoning board recommends approval 5-0.
Any questions or discussion on this case? Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, just one. It looks like the zoning board has approved it. I'm hearing just a tad bit of reservation, but yet an approval from you as well. So under your professionalism, dealing with the coin on par, how are you tilted?
Well, we felt that the safety factor was removed from the table, that there was no safety factor by having it closer to the road, and it's still 160 feet from the road. So we did not see an issue with that.
Okay, so you're tilting towards approval.
Yes, I suppose. I don't get a vote.
Well, you don't get a vote, but it will weigh because you.
I don't get a vote. I mean, my opinion, everyone should follow the rules at all times, you know. But there are reasons why you can't. And the fact that all that concrete that they found buried there is probably a legitimate reason. That's for you to decide.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we give you a little tilting, so as you're informing us, we can make a decision. I because I'm a person that believes the person has their property, let's let them utilize it, but also I have to make sure it's in the greater good of the individuals that lives around them. So
if I thought that there was any way that somebody could be harmed by a car ending up in that pond, I would have a different opinion.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kirkstra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dell, was there any kind of study done since we are so close to the road there, is there any possibility of any type of overflow or anything like that?
No, the drainage drains back towards the river's just off to the west side there, the left side.
Yes.
And there's a swale. Any overflow goes to the river.
Okay, all right. That was basically my question. If there is a chance of any type of.
You'd have to have a pretty major flood, probably more like a 50-year flood for that to even be a possibility.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right. I understand. I just wanted to know if we did have some type of a backstop for that.
I'm not even sure a 50-year flood would get water there. So
still something that we should keep concerned with.
Yeah, there's a pretty good drop from the road down to where the pond is.
Okay. All right.
Great. All right. If there aren't any other questions or points of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Alexander Hildebrand. Ms. Hudson. Anybody? Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Great. Thank you, guys. All right. ZBA case number 22-18.
We are on the wrong slide there. Should be the second one in the deck. Third. There you go. All right. This is a request by Tyler and Gina Deeney and James E. Smith Jr. and Daryl Smith. Mr. Daryl Smith used to own this property. It was a 20-acre parcel, had two homes on it, one on the east side, one on the west side. That's probably about a year ago. He divided it into two 10.3-acre parcels and sold those to the other individuals. At that time, his real estate agent had asked us the question if it could be divided, and of course we said yes, but didn't go any further to elaborate on what steps might need to be taken. So according to the Plat Act, you can divide any property into 5-acre tracts or more, providing you're not creating any new roads or easements, which these are two 10-acre tracts with road frontage. So from a Plat Act standpoint, they were able to be divided. However, they did not meet our zoning ordinance, which for a home in the A1 district is currently zoned A1 agriculture, is a minimum of 20 acres for a home. So the appropriate zoning for these two parcels at 10 acres apiece with a home on each one is the A2 district, and that is what Mr. Smith is asking for today. Nothing has changed on the property other than dividing it in half. Zoning board also recommends approval of this one 5-0. That was heard Monday night.
Thank you, Dell. Any questions or discussion on this case? Basically, the request is to rezone it from A1 to A2.
Yes.
Okay.
A2 agricultural estate. The back parts of those properties are still farmed in hay.
Okay.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with doing it, but how come Mr. Smith is doing this instead of the property owners?
I don't know that that question came up at zoning board, but he was the former owner who sold it to these people. I think he's just trying to correct it.
Okay.
Either he'd have to or they have to.
I just didn't know if he had the authority to do that. If he does, I don't have a problem.
They have given him the authority.
Okay. All right.
Both current property owners have signed off on the application.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. Any other questions, Mr. Snipes?
I just motion to approve.
Okay. And Mr. Eckhoff, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, it's approved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dell and staff, for your research and help in those cases. We'll move to number 6 on the agenda, planning, e-waste intergovernmental agreement.
I will turn that over to Ben to discuss that.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I did hand out something to the committee today, and I kind of want to step a little bit back on e-waste, mainly for just to talk a little bit about the program, kind of, and what we discussed a couple of years ago when we kicked it off, and why we've got this renewal in front of you the way it is. Fundamentally, the goal for us has been to reduce the overall cost of e-waste collection. Formerly, Karma ran 2 e-waste collection sites within Kankakee County. They paid a lot more than we pay collectively. So when we approached them, we found there was some just immediate cost savings there. But I think the fundamental goal for us, and when we were directed by Chairman Wheeler, was to get it down to about $1 per resident in the county. If we spend $105,000 a year on e-waste collection and everybody can get their waste collected, that seemed to be fair. So in kicking off the program, we put a little bit more money on the front end. Our budget was right around $135,000 for the first couple of years. We did, and one of the sheet, what sides of the sheet you have on the outside shows kind of what our programming looked like. We did the magnets, we did the buck slips, we did the radio ads, billboards. Now that people know more about e-waste, our goal is to kind of scale that back, do a little more guerrilla kind of marketing where we use our social media platforms, we use our partners. Jasmine's working very heavily with a lot of our partners. When we create content, they share that content, and it just kind of keeps recirculating through the community. But we don't know that we need to necessarily spend as much money in direct cost. And the billboards are expensive, radio's expensive. We still might do buck slips, we still might do magnets, we still want to be out in the community doing events, but trying to do it at a little more cost effective. So we built a new budget, and now we have a budget. And kind of the second directive from Chairman Wheeler was to make sure that towns that were paying for this are receiving the benefit. You know, if you live in a town that isn't paying for it, there's a direct cost to you as a homeowner, but also that we're paying for it at an appropriate level. So we initially just took the census population. It was pre-2020 census. We were just kind of working off old numbers, and we said, here's how we're going to divide it up equally per capita. What we've since done is we receive inbound waste stream collection information from Belson's. It was part of our contract when we put this together, where we know the volume of waste, the tonnage of waste, the number of transactions that we're seeing, and we wanted to make sure that the towns that were utilizing the e-waste were paying their fair share. So inside in the table, you can see a couple, 2 pie graphs. So we had 2021 data and the first half of 2022. We've since received Q3 2022 data, but it's not quite included in here. But we wanted to make it to where the communities that were using the volume of e-waste were paying the share of the e-waste. So in that adjusted cost, you'll see there's been some, I want to say, relatively drastic changes in some of the communities where you have a a smaller community that maybe didn't use as much e-waste that might now have a share of $55 or $92, and they're paying their fair share this way. John from the State's Attorney's Office is working with the attorney at Karma right now to renew our contract with them. They're going to maintain their participation at the same level. We are asking to execute intergovernmental agreements with all of our partners that we currently have the agreements with, and we would really like the authority for the chairman to sign any new agreements with communities that might want to come on board and use it. So it's kind of a request to do something, enter into new intergovernmental agreements that would be 2 years, so that would be 2023 and 2024, but we don't exactly have the intergovernmental agreements negotiated from the backside. So we want a little bit of flexibility here to continue to work with the state's attorney's office, but to afford the chairman the ability to execute these agreements. I will say, if you look at the way the math kind of washes out, if we and Karma and Manteno participate as communities, we'll have likely enough funds to execute our contract with Belson's. So that's certainly a good thing, but I don't know what the appetite is in some of our communities as far as executing them finally. I can tell you in the minor dialogues we've had at the mayor's meeting, everybody seems really happy with it. Their costs aren't that great to them, and a lot of them are receiving a discounted cost with the new waste. So I'm assuming they'll be happy. I can't speak on behalf of them yet because I haven't had that negotiation. And there's a little bit of chicken and egg here where get the big three players lined up, get our vendor Belson's re-executed, and then we'll continue to kind of execute the IGAs. So what I'm asking for is not an exact set thing, but I would like the ability for the chairman to execute some intergovernmental agreements for e-waste under these kind of guiding posts.
Great, excellent. Mr. Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben, I actually like that you're doing a 2-year contract for 2023 and 2024. It gives them some, something to go ahead and expect in their budget instead of a cost that just comes up. So I just wanted to go ahead and say good job on that.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Ben. Do we need an approval for?
A motion to allow the chairman to sign those agreements when they're ready would be.
All right. Okay, Ms. Hudson. Mr. Fairfield. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Great, excellent. Next, we have the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County Intergovernmental Agreement.
Yes, that should be a copy of that in your packet. Labeled service agreement with the Economic Alliance. We renew this every 2 years, and that just it's basically an agreement that allows their employees to be county employees, and it's Ben, if you want to elaborate any more on that, but we do this every 2 years.
I guess the only thing I would note is the reason we do this every 2 years is we have an obligation to not exceed kind of board terms. So this is something you see every 2 years, and it will be voted on at the December meeting after the new board is seated. So for that 2-year period, that board is intact. And obviously we have elections, and then in that that 2 years. So this allows us to enter into that agreement kind of on our regular cycle. It allows us to use our legal authority for that window that we have. Nothing has changed within the agreement with the county and the alliance. The same type of work and amount of work will be done, but it just that's why this always seems to happen every 2 years.
Great, thank you. Again, looking for an approval.
Motion, yes.
A motion to approve. Mr. Eckhoff, Ms. Foster. We have a first and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, great. We've got that approved. All right, Economic Alliance of Kankakee County bylaws. There's been a bylaw.
Yeah, this is for informational purposes. There's no vote needed on it. We just wanted to bring to your attention that the Economic Alliance is changing their bylaws to increase membership, and it is my understanding that that increase in membership is to allow more industry representation on the board. Correct, Ben?
That's correct, Del. So when we go out and meet with industry leaders, we get feedback quite a bit. And formerly the board was a cap of 18 members. We were requesting, and actually at a recent Alliance board meeting, the executive committee and board voted to increase that membership to 22, and it's an up to number. So the bylaws change includes language of depending on how big the board is, it sets parameters for our what a quorum is. But this allows us, when we meet with new industries and have new perspectives come in, we don't have to necessarily lose a valuable board member to bring that new person in. It allows us the ability to bring another person into the mix to get their insight. And we really thought it would be helpful for us. I mean, we just recently did a visit with Crown Cork and Seal. They're a great example here, where you drive past it every day, you don't really know what they do. They're making millions of cans for PepsiCo. And you start talking with them and say, oh, they've been attending our meetings, they've been giving us feedback, and we're at a point where we couldn't possibly add them because we would have to take someone off. And we've got a bunch of great people on our board now, and we wouldn't necessarily want to lose that. So this allows a little bit of flexibility there.
Great, thank you. Ms. Foster?
Who's on the board? Who's on the Economic Alliance board?
I do not have the board roster in front of me, but it's president of KCC. We have some industry people in finance. We have the presidents of both of the hospitals. We have representation from the public utilities. We have real estate represented. We have specific industries represented. Some of our larger employers within the community are represented. We have 4 members from the Kankakee County Board that are represented. We have Kankakee County NAACP represented. It's a pretty broad smattering within our community of types and industries covered. We always want to make sure we have kind of that education and the workforce and then particular industries covered. Right now, the Board of 18 though does run the gamut of professional people within our community. So,
thank you. Any other questions, discussion on that? Great, excellent. If not, we'll move along to item number 7, old business. Is there any old business to become before the group? If not, new business. All right, if there's nothing else.
Chairman, I move we adjourn, or did Hudson?
I beat you to it already, Larry.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a first and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, stay seated.